Hello. So I had mentioned in my previous little mini vlog that I had thought about doing, I guess, a mini series of sorts about what it is like to foster animals, specifically cats and kittens, because that's what I do. I feel like it's something that's a little bit misunderstood, or maybe people go into it with like high expectations for it being easy or super fun. And there's a lot of that in, fostering animals. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm not saying I don't enjoy doing it, but it is something that as a new foster, I feel like there's a lot of information missing that people either don't realize they need to ask about or things that should be addressed by the rescue or the fostering agency that you work with. So this will probably be, two, maybe three parts, I'm thinking. Probably end up being more. We'll see as I go along. For the first one, I want to just kind of talk about when you first get into rescue, whether you have animals or not, what kind of questions you should be asking. Also, those are my dogs. I apologize. There's nothing I can do about that. This is their house. They kind of do whatever they want. Right now it's time to play with the dog toys. So back to the topic. So I started fostering during the COVID pandemic because being home all the time, not having any kind of real going out or social interaction, it got to me after 8, 9 months. I'm a naturally just very social person. I always leave the house on a normal basis, even if it's just to go walk around somewhere. I like to be out. I like to go do things. I like to see people and spend time with friends and loved ones. So the pandemic was pretty rough on me mentally, emotionally, physically, everything. I gained weight. I became very frustrated with myself very easily. I already have anxiety as it is, so that kind of made it way worse. But I saw it as a way to kind of do something to give back as well as bring some joy to my family because we love animals. And we've had, cats over the years. We were very comfortable with them. We know how cats work, so to speak. So I reached out to a few agencies, and one of the first things that I really didn't realize, but makes sense, I just think maybe people don't think about, is that you will need to provide with them with some kind of proof that you either own your home or the place that you're renting is aware that you have animals there. A lot of people will foster but not actually have animals themselves. And many rescues worry, of course, that their foster and the animals that are with that foster could be caught and kicked out. So I know even for my agency that I work with, we don't even adopt out unless we can confirm with some type of legal paperwork that you share with us, or by us calling your property manager if you're renting in any capacity to say, hey, does John Smith pay pet rent and or have they paid a deposit? So of course, I have my own pets. So yes, they're aware that I have animals here. I paid my deposit. I paid my monthly pet rent. Much as I hate it, at least I know my animals are safe. They're not going to leave. They're not going to get kicked out as long as they're good, normal animals. So that's something you really have to consider. If you don't have personal pets and you kind of look at it as a like aunt or uncle situation, I get to take care of them for the fun part and then I get to give them back or give them to a new home, then you have to be prepared to pay that most likely for many of the legitimate or very serious rescues and fosters. They want to know that if they give you, 3 cats and your neighbor decides to get spiteful and reports you, they're not going to have to worry about finding 3 homes or another home for those 3 cats. Because anytime a foster is just like, hey, all those cats I had, by the way, I can't take care of them anymore. Many rescues now are all foster run. So those animals have to either go to another foster that has room, or the cats essentially have nowhere to go and they may end up at animal control or the Humane Society. Depending on where you're at, that may be fine. But I know at least here in this part of Florida where I'm at in Central Florida, it can be hard, especially during certain times of the year, which right now is kitten season, which I'll touch on that later. It can be hard to find space. The turnover isn't as high as essentially the inbound. So if they're getting 25 cats a day, but they're only adopting out 3, you know that there's 17 extra cats minimum. My math is really bad. Don't even worry about it. 22 if I'm saying 25 a day. I can't even remember. My dog is barking. She's distracting me. But it's just one of those things where you really have to consider this is a commitment, even if it's not a lifelong commitment. It could be a week commitment. It could be 6 months. It really depends on the animal that you bring in. So be prepared for those types of questions. Have you had an animal before? For cats in particular, especially right now, because like I mentioned, kitten season is happening. Have you ever bottle fed an animal before? Do you know the commitment that comes with that? Do you know what signs to look for? Do you know how to help them learn how to potty on their own? Have you ever litter trained an animal before? Do you know how to wash them? Do you know how to approach an animal that is untrusting, scared? Have you ever been able to tell if an animal is going to attack you? Those are all things that many people don't really know. We are all accustomed to the sweet, fluffy cats that, get a little feisty at times, usually during play or something, or if an animal they don't know approaches them. But a lot of rescue and foster is rehabilitating, is taking care of animals that are sick or hurt or have never been around a human being in a positive way before. And that's hard. It's a lot of time, a lot of resources, and it's difficult. You can't save them all. You're going to want to, and you can't. And it all starts because you wanted to do something good. You wanted to help. You're trying to find a way that you can give back while also doing something for yourself. And it can all be shattered just because you can't afford the $500, $600, $700 pet deposit. Or if you choose to do it anyway, and then you get caught, you could be evicted. You could, have an extra fine from your property manager, even if you don't continue fostering, because an animal has been in your house, your apartment, whatever it happens to be, your condo. So those are things you have to ask yourself. First of all, if I decide to go this route, have I looked in my lease to see how much this is if I haven't paid this already? And if I have paid this already, you need to pay attention to the fine details. Are you limited on how many animals you can have? Can they drop by and check on the welfare of the animals if somebody claims they've seen you bring in more pets or something like that? So that's where I would start. That was something that I didn't really consider. And when I started going over our application process, I realized, we don't even adopt out unless they can prove that. And because many pieces of your information are public, whether you like it or not, if you provide us with an address and you say, I own this, do you? Because we can check. There's public records. And if you lie, that's a quick way to get denied. So it's not even something that you can kind of skirt around unless you own multiple properties and you're renting them out or something, which in that case, I don't think you have a problem paying your rent anyway. But those are things that, rescues and fosters look for, especially when they're talking, you're coming in, you're like, I have experience with animals or cats in particular, in my case. I can take 5 at a time. I'm all prepared and this and that. You have to be ready with questions. And I think on top of looking into rent requirements, what's required by, the actual rescue itself, as far as like personal identification and information, is you need to ask yourself and ask the rescue, how much of the cat's care, food, housing, any transportation costs, medical care, how much do you cover per cat, per month, whatever it happens to be? And if they say, they provide those things, how do you provide them? Do I have to come to you? Do you bring them to me? Is there a regular donation that happens every month? Are we just working off of our donations that month? Those are all really important questions, as well as confirming and being honest with yourself about your own boundaries. How much can I take on at once? Because I promise you, when somebody shows you a video or a picture of this very sweet kitten that needs a home and you could help them, I promise you're going to forget about your boundaries and your limits. And that's what many of these rescues need, is your honesty. If you can only do one cat at a time and you tell them, they're going to know, okay, you have this cat, you can't take another. But if you don't, and you're like, it kind of depends, or I'm flexible, they're going to find the opportunity to ask you for more help because they need it. Not because they're trying to make life difficult for you, but because they have so many cats and only so many places to send them. So I will touch on that a little bit more in the next kind of part of this. I wanted to keep these to about 10-15 minutes each. So they're not a ton of information or a ton of me rambling all at once, but that's where I wanted to start. So hi, I started fostering cats during the pandemic. I'm about 4 months in now, and it's been a learning experience. I'm going to share some things I learned with you. I will see you again soon. Bye.